welcome to the Becoming Us podcast. Sponsored by Yonder Limited, experts in project management and business support service. Hello and welcome to the Becoming Us podcast. I'm Christine.
I'm Shenda.
I'm Siobhan.
And I'm Winnie.
Today we will be discussing the struggles of baby loss in the Black and minority ethnic communities. We have been researching this issue for several months. However, due to the recent events in America with the death of George Floyd, a lot more research has been recently issued. According to research completed by the Biomedical Centre in 2016, which looked into 2 hospitals in the UK, they found that 80% of Caucasian women that had suffered baby loss went on to access bereavement support, whereas only 3% of African, Afro-Caribbean and Asian women access the same support, which is a huge difference. More recently, earlier this month, there was a petition to improve maternal mortality rates and healthcare for Black women in the UK. BAME women in the UK are 5 times more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth compared to white women, and that was a report issued by the MBR Race. The government recently responded, informing us that they've issued a policy research unit in maternal and neonatal health and care study into factors associated with the higher risk of maternal death for Black and South Asian women. We recently contacted University of Oxford and spoke with their prenatal unit on whether they have specific research on BAME women and whether that research shows whether they've accessed bereavement services after losing a baby. They've informed us that due to recent events, they have started doing this research, and Professor Knight is focusing on that particular research and will get back to us so we can give you an update on a later episode. So we are 4 individual women from different BAME backgrounds, and we'll just give you a quick insight into that. So I'm born and bred here in London, but my parents are Sri Lankan.
I was born in London. My parents are Grenadian, but I was raised partially in London and in Grenada.
I was born here in London. My mum's Guyanese and my dad's Jamaican.
I was born in Uganda. I came here when I was 4 years old, and so I'm familiar with more of the London life than I am the Ugandan one.
So you're basically born and bred in London, isn't it?
No, I'm not born.
Oh.
Born or bred? Born in Uganda. I was bred in London.
Wicked. And what brings us all together mainly is that of recent we've all had baby loss of some kind. I had a daughter who was 5 weeks old who died suddenly in 2018. Shen?
I had a miscarriage last year, so 2019, at about 9 weeks, so it was fairly early.
I had neonatal death. My daughter died at 4 months last July.
And I had a stillbirth in 2011. I'm still trying to overcome the thoughts and feelings around that.
So very grim subject we're discussing today, but I think what we all have in common is that we didn't really address our experience and our grief, and we didn't access any support. I think Shiv is the only person that out of all 4 of us that is actually accessing bereavement support, so it'd be interesting to know how she felt about that. So if I'm just going to kick off, just give you insight into my own personal story. So my daughter was 5 weeks old when she died suddenly in 2018, and it was quite traumatic how it happened because my eldest 2 sons witnessed her stop breathing. My family really struggled with talking about my daughter Rose, that was her name, particularly my dad, who's, I don't mind saying, is a typical Sri Lankan father. However, my husband's family, who are white, were incredibly encouraging towards my husband, and even his sister posted on Facebook that she was doing a sponsored run in memory of Rose, which I thought was really sweet. But with my family, I couldn't face talking about my loss because nobody wanted to address it, and instead I felt that if I had discussed it or started talking about Rose, it would mean I wasn't being normal or moving on, because that's how I felt particularly in the Asian community. You don't really dwell on things, you're just meant to carry on. And after speaking with Shen, Shiv and Winnie, we sort of felt the similar experiences and felt the same. So, I guess the question I want to ask is, when we looked into this, studies showed that baby loss triggers a wide range of psychological and physiological problems, including depression, anxiety, stress, and even guilt. What's concerning about the figures that I mentioned at the beginning, only 3% of BAME women had access to bereavement support after a loss. What's concerning is that BAME women of BAME backgrounds are not addressing their trauma. So, what do you guys think about that, having experienced yourself?
I mean, me personally, I feel like I wanted to access that support. I wanted people to talk about it. I wanted to have that space to discuss it. But like you said, within, Black and minority ethnic communities, it seems that the general consensus is, even though we're all quite different, people don't like to talk about things like that. No one wants to talk about it. So, I mean, when it happened for me, obviously I was quite early, so I feel like my my story in comparison to everybody else's is probably maybe not as traumatic, because I didn't have the chance to build a bond with a baby. There was no.
Maybe that's the problem, because especially a lot of people have it is common to get a miscarriage, but it is very traumatic.
Yeah. And I think because it's so common, it's kind of just like, well, this happens all the time, get used to it, you can try again. And then after that, I feel like I didn't want to. I was scared, because I was just thinking, I don't want to go through this again. It's painful, like extremely painful. No one tells you how painful it is to have a miscarriage. Just even physically painful, but emotionally painful as well, because you don't get a chance to process the pain because you're going through it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like it happens and then you can get over it. It's like it's happening, and it keeps happening for a while before it's over with. So
are you offered any help after?
No, I wanted to. So I realized that there was no heartbeat at 6 weeks, and I think that's when the heartbeat's supposed to start. So I realised that there was no heartbeat at 6 weeks, and the doctor had said to me that there's two choices here. It's either the baby's really early or you're going to miscarry. And that was literally how it was put to me. So I was like, oh, okay. So I was trying to do the maths, and I was like, well, there's no chance that this is an early baby. This is probably a miscarriage. So I was trying to just prepare myself for a miscarriage. And then it was just like, okay, well, off you go now, kind of thing. So I didn't really feel.
Leaflet or?
I don't think so. I was given the sheet of what my diagnosis was, and it just said there, threatened miscarriage in bold.
So that's a miscarriage. What
does
that even mean?
It means that you're gonna miscarry probably. That's basically what it means. And I was like, well, can you check my uterus? What can you see? Well, lovely, it's beautiful. You just need to.
So they sent you home to have the miscarriage.
Yes. That's what happened. And I had a holiday booked, so I miscarried in Thailand.
Oh my God.
Me and my partner.
So what was the aftercare? Did you have a doctor ring you up?
No aftercare. It was literally, you're probably going to miscarry, off you go. And that was it.
I didn't take it seriously because it was so early.
Yeah. And I think also because I'm so young. I think another thing is, well, you've got lots of time to have children. That's the attitude that I got. I'm 27, by the way. So it's just like, we just had to get on with it. So on the way home, I was with my partner, and he was just trying to be positive about it. And he was just like, oh, don't worry, like the lady said, it could just be young, and maybe that. And I'm just like, yeah, I know this isn't so I'm just going to try and prepare myself for a miscarriage and then just get on with it. So yeah, I miscarried in
psychologically,
Phuket.
That's quite a lot too. It is. How can you prepare yourself for a miscarriage?
You can't,
yourself
because you still feel attached. Like everyone, it's so funny because people knew that I was pregnant even before I announced it, because I looked it. Like my face was all rosy and chubby, and everyone kept saying, "Oh my God, you're glowing," and I was just like, "Yeah."
You didn't deny it. You just said.
I didn't say anything. Yeah. I was just like, "Yep, I am glowing on holiday."
Yeah.
So yeah, there was no aftercare offered to me. I did make a complaint to the hospital, and the response that I got was very much, well, we spoke to the nurse who in question, and she said that she did offer you support. It was just basically denial, and that's kind of...
Yeah, but do you think that the lack of offer was linked to your ethnicity, your background, because that's where we need to differentiate?
I think it was linked to possibly, because I think there's this myth that black women don't feel pain, or we don't feel pain the same way. I think there's that, but I also think it's the whole, well, you're young and you've got lots of time to have children. Not realizing that you're still going through something, you still have emotions, you still are, you know, if you want to have a child, you're already starting to build an attachment. So I think a lot of it was linked to my age as well. Because I think if I was a lot older, there would have been a lot more empathy, I think. Because it's like, oh, well, I can understand you getting on.
But what do they offer at that stage?
I don't know. Because I wasn't offered it.
Counselling, I suppose.
I wasn't
At that age? Because I think there's stages. I think there's stages of service offerings and I think people
For
underestimate.
people that experience miscarriage.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering whether there are. Because
There is the Miscarriage Association, but you have to go searching for that.
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
surprised
not
that the
offered.
hospital didn't offer you.
But I think it's like, I'm not going to go and start searching for things like that when I'm feeling sad.
And you wouldn't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to like Google, how can I get miscarriage bereavement support?
They
like,
don't offer it. They don't signpost you either.
No, it was literally, here you go with this paper that said threatened miscarriage in bold letters. And, you know, come back in 3 weeks and we'll see what your womb looks like. And literally that was it. And then I went on holiday. So I just, from the way I was dealt with, I just was like, okay, well, I'm just going to prepare myself to just deal with this.
Okay, so because you suffered a stillbirth, and what are your thoughts basically on the fact that statistics that women from a BAME background are not accessing support?
Personally, my family are African, so in their heads it was meant to happen. So we didn't really talk about the aftermath.
Sorry, did someone say that to you, or is that just the understanding?
It's just almost an unspoken word that
Yeah.
you've had a miscarriage, you won't be the first and you won't be the last person. So this just deal with it, move on, and you can try again next month. Just get on with it. So I didn't feel like I should be trying to help myself at that point. I just needed to move on quickly. And we didn't talk about it much apart from just next month you just try again, and that's it. And I didn't seek help. I mean, I was offered help because I was in the hospital for about a week. I just didn't pursue the counselling because I didn't feel ready to speak about it. I wasn't encouraged by my family to speak about it, and I just went into shutdown mode, and I think I'm still in shutdown mode. I don't try and take myself back to that time. I don't like this whole discussion is uncomfortable for me, but I think I need to have the conversations at some point. I'm not sure whether my experiences are necessarily linked to my ethnicity or but I think our ability as BAME women, as a BAME community, to talk about trauma is limited, and I don't know whether that's just, I don't know where that comes from. We just don't talk about stuff. We don't talk about it. We just been taught to stand back up and move on. So that's kind of what I did, but I'm not sure whether it was because I was coming from a strong point of I need to move on, or whether I was just didn't know what to do with the emotion, so I just literally shut it down.
Well, it seems like there was no space for you to even explore it, even if you wanted to.
No, not really.
Do you regret not doing anything about it?
I think I probably do now, only because I'm still struggling to talk about it now, and it's 2011 is a long time, and I still struggle to talk about it. I still haven't been to the burial site. I still haven't spoken to my partner about it. We don't talk about it really, apart from passing comments, and maybe we should visit the gravesite, but we just generally don't talk about it. And as a family, even it didn't matter whether it was a week or 2 years or 5 years. I mean, as a family, we don't even reference that experience at all. It's just I now have to two beautiful boys, and people talk about them. They don't talk about the past. It's almost like it must stay there.
Are you glad of that? Because we celebrate Rose's birthday. I get like cupcakes, and I ask the boys to blow out a candle and make a promise that you'll live this particular thing that you blow out, that you think of in your head, in memory of Rose. Like, I'm going to promise to be kind. I'm going to promise to be
That's nice.
this. I'm going to promise to do that. Something that she would have been, because she would have been a kind person. But like I said, I wouldn't even have thought of that if it wasn't for my husband making me feel comfortable about grieving with her.
No, we don't have that. We don't reference it at all. It's sort of the day comes, I think the week comes, and we kind of had there's this sad cloud that you feel, and you're not sure why you're upset. You're not even sure quite whether it's today or whether it was yesterday or whether it was last week. But around the same time, we generally have a dip in emotion, and we might say it in passing, but we don't have an active conversation about the thoughts and feelings and the emotions. You just almost suffer it in silence. You almost, I don't even know whether it's a suffering, well it must be a suffering because you're still in pain, but you just don't bring it forward. Yeah.
Everything, yeah.
And so the week comes, and then you just move to the next month.
So his father, do you think he also struggles with it as a black man?
As a black man, he definitely struggles with it. I struggle, but he takes it on another level. He really did go in like a depression.
And that's quite common, because even statistics show that, mental health in BAME background, men of BAME backgrounds, do suffer from mental health more. And I'm sure there's no statistics out there to show, is it after bereavement, or even specifically baby loss bereavement. But that's the thing, like no one's looking into this. Everyone's just, it's such an unspoken, no one's normalizing it. You just don't talk about it. You don't talk about baby loss.
I don't think BMEs grieve very well. I think
in general, yeah.
I think actually that there's a they call it a celebration of life, and they'll hold a party, but that's all. It's almost like surface grief. But the work that's required to literally dig deep into how you actually feel and the steps you need to take to move past that point, we don't do that. We don't ring up counsellors. We don't have mediation. We just don't.
Actually, can I ask you, Shiv? Because in Caribbean communities, they have a 9-night. So when it came to you, when your daughter died, did you have one?
No way. It was like.
And is it because it's a baby?
Yeah, definitely, because she was 4 months.
Yeah.
We celebrated her life, I suppose, in our way, but there was no, that didn't even come into my mind. I think my partner's dad mentioned it, and I was like, no, it was just no, complete shutdown, because it's a sad situation. We're about to bury our daughter, who's a baby, not an adult or someone who's lived life. She didn't get the chance to live life. And for me, a 9-night is about the celebration of that person's life. And if you're about to bury a child, they haven't lived their life. So for me, that wasn't even.
Did you have uncles at her funeral? Like your uncles and people?
So we had quite a lot of people at her funeral, and we had a lot of support and it was a big turnout, much more than what we had expected, to be honest, and what I'd wanted. If I could have just had it as me and him, I probably would have, but I knew that wasn't, she was a loved baby, so that wasn't going to happen. But we had the burial, and that was really, really intimate. So the church service there was quite a lot of people there, and then when we went to bury her, that was just like our immediate family and godparents. So.
Did anyone say anything a bit inappropriate, or not inappropriate, but a bit like, oh, don't worry, you can have another, or?
To be honest, I don't think so. If they did, I don't remember, because I'm very much a person that gets on with stuff. I'm a brusher under the carpet, and very my mum says I'm very stoic and you know, hard-faced and I am, but this whole experience, that's the word, has changed me a lot. I didn't used to talk about things. Something would happen, I'd be upset about it, I'd be in my feelings about it, and then I'd get over it. But now I realise that with this happening, that wasn't going to work. That was going to send me off my head, because I needed to talk about it. And although
you want to acknowledge her existence,
yeah,
you want people to remember her.
Yeah, and that's my main thing, that I don't want people to forget her. So I encourage people to talk to me about it. I don't want people to feel awkward about mentioning her name. I don't want people to pity me. Yes, I've lost my child, but she was here for a reason, whatever reason that is, and she's not with us anymore. But I don't want her to be forgotten, and I will always engage in conversation about it if I'm in the mood for it. But this has changed me a lot, because out of all of you, like you've said, I've reached out to, well, I didn't reach out, but I'm engaging with bereavement counselling services, psychology, and it's helped me a lot. It's helped me a lot to be able to just have that outlet, as and when I need it, really. I didn't go looking for it. Imam was in hospital for the last 5 weeks of her life, and while she was at Great Ormond Street, they were really good at offering different services and different things for parents, to help them. We had massages, we had different stuff whilst we were there, and psychology was one of the things that they offered, and we took it up whilst we were there, while she was still alive, and you know, just spoke about things with this particular lady. Once she died, you know, it kind of died down and didn't really hear anything from them. We then had a meeting about everything that happened with the doctors and stuff like that, and that's where they said, is this something that you would like to access? Reluctantly, I said yes, because in my mind I was like, well, what's this going to do? It's just going to bring up old feelings every week. I'm going to talk about the same thing. I'm just going to be stuck in this same place. I couldn't see further than the end of my nose. It was just, why am I going to go over this every single week? Why am I going to talk about the fact that she's dead and she's not here and she didn't get to experience this? But actually, I've had the complete opposite experience, and for me, being able to tap into that service has given me the ability to look at life in a different way and be more appreciative of what I have, I suppose. And you know, for whatever reason, she had this illness, and she just wasn't meant to be. And it's taken me a long while to get here. But I can see a difference in me from 7 months ago to where I am now.
I'm just thinking, because you were handed that service because of how long you were at Great Ormond Street. Yeah. But I think what's the difference is that ours happened suddenly, and there's nothing in place for women when suddenly they have a baby that's, you know, no longer have a baby in front of them, or they're no longer pregnant, or they're no longer gonna give birth. Yeah. So how come they don't have these people available when that happens?
But is it that it's not available?
I think it's available. I think you have to go and find it. They just don't.
That's the thing. I'm correct. It was at the hospital, isn't it?
Yeah. So, they're just not offering it out to.
Why wasn't it at the early pregnancy unit for you? Why wasn't it at the labour ward for you? And why wasn't it after the chapel for me when I was in the church chapel?
Do you know what it is? They give you the booklet, don't they? And they expect you to take time to read it to then discover it.
So you had a stillbirth and they gave you a booklet.
That's a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up staying in the hospital for 5 days in that room that they give you. Yeah. My mum was like, "Get out! It's time to go and live here. You can't live here forever. There's a world outside." We were in this bed, literally sleeping in this bed. But I don't know whether it's them trying to give you the space to grieve or to get over it or whatever, but who's going to read through this booklet? No one.
You're not going to read through no booklet.
So unless someone comes in and says, "This is the service we offer, take it up and follow it up."
Do you think that has a lot to do with funding?
I don't know.
No,
whether
because
it's a
they're there.
funding
Because
issue, 'cause
it's
Just
there,
in terms of
isn't
who
it?
they offer it to. Because like the only reason why I say that is because they must think I'm just guessing that they're thinking, oh well, you know, you just started your pregnancy, so
and especially
really
when they
no
see
point
loads
offering
of
you
family
anything right now,
members.
so you can just go and get on with it. Because literally there was another lady that I met and she was a lot nicer, an African lady, and she tried to kind of, you know, talk me through it. This was at, I don't know if I should say the name of the hospital, but it was at a hospital. I can't remember. It was
Miscarriage.
I think it was after I'd gone to the early pregnancy unit. I was sent to the maternity place. It wasn't a ward or anything. It was just where they do your checks and stuff. And she was just like, "Oh, so I've seen that you've had a." On the system, it says that it's a threatened miscarriage, so you might miscarry. And she was just trying to talk me through. She said, "No, it's okay. You know, these things happen to so many women. You know, but it's okay because you can have another one.
Yeah.
So you can just."
And that doesn't. How did that make you feel at that point?
But I think, to be honest, her approach was a lot more gentle. She was kind of saying the same stuff, but her approach was a lot more gentle. And she was just like, "It's okay, my sister. You know, I know what you're feeling. I know what you're feeling, but it's okay. You can just, you know, you and your partner is here. You are here together. You will get, like, do you know, she was trying to be a lot more like gentle and a lot more like warm about it. Whereas in the early pregnancy unit, it was cold. They were like, "Here's your leaflet. Piss off. Next." Like, so even though she was saying the same stuff, and I weren't really trying to hear it at that time. Afterwards, I did feel a lot more comforted by what she said than what the other people said.
Is it because you can relate to her because she was a woman of an?
Because she's black.
Let's
not beat around the bush here.
The hue of her skin was.
She was black.
She was black.
I think so, but for me, it's not just because of that. I think it's her approach. She was trying to be understanding.
She was personal.
But you know what?
Yeah.
You say that and it's true because actually, although I was in the hospital for a long time, it was the other with the black and Asians that were more. They felt like they could relate to my experience, and I was listening more to what they were saying than to the other doctors. And I don't know whether it was the way that they were telling me the same thing, but they're all saying the same thing.
It felt like less of a conveyor belt.
It was clinical.
It felt like in out with the other people. Whereas with this lady, I sat there even after she'd done what she was meant to be doing. We just sat and had a chat by the computer for an extra 5-10 minutes, and she it didn't seem like she was rushing me out or anything. She didn't offer me any like psychological. She didn't signpost me to anything, but just her being a bit more warm about it made me feel slightly better. So I think even at that point they could have. I mean, yes, you have to give out leaflets, but still at least speak about something and say, you know, if you are feeling this type of way, you know, you can use this service, or here's this number, phone these people, and it's okay, and, you know, whatever. But it was literally just, you can try again, you know, like, it's like.
Well, I suppose the NHS is stressed, and I'm not even trying to back the NHS, but I mean, I do love the NHS, I must say, because they have treated me well generally, but the NHS is stressed, and they do have to work through their priorities, and I suppose if they get to a point where there's nothing more they can do for you, they haven't got the space, the availability, the time to comfort everybody that walks in their doors. It's just a case of, there's nothing more we can do, the next one's due, she's outside. So you do have to just get...
But even if that is the case, that being made to feel like that is a completely different scenario. You know, we could in the work that we do, we could take that stance, and where would we get? We wouldn't get anywhere. So the fact that, yes, the NHS is under pressure, it's stressed, whatever, but at that moment you're dealing with that woman who's lost her baby, whether she's lost a baby at 6 weeks or 6 months or post neonatal. You deal with that woman as an individual. You deal with that woman, she's been through a trauma. It doesn't matter how long you've carried that baby. You carried that baby, you've lost that baby. Why are we not offered?
Well, is it because they're not educated on the barriers that women of BAME backgrounds face? Do you think that the nurses, midwives, antenatal support, they should all be educated on our barriers that, like you say, coming from your background and mine. Like my parents, they just didn't want to discuss it. They just wanted to feed me all the time. After post when
maybe they should be thinking about lots of women either are from a background where it's not discussed, where it's not acceptable, whereas you don't talk about it, you're not supported through that journey. So maybe they need to take a few extra steps to offer you the service, but then have a follow-up and a consultation.
Yeah,
that
would have been nice.
What's shocking for me is that they knew that my eldest children had, even they were like 13 at the time and 10, they had witnessed their baby sister stop breathing, blood coming through her nose and suddenly dying, and they sent a letter from St. Christopher's saying, bereavement support, to call this number. As a family, you can do that. But no one checked up on us, and I could be passing this trauma through to my sons, and then it's going to make them
traumatized. It's a safeguarding issue, isn't it?
It is. This is that at that point, I felt like even the children's social care should have at least reached out and said to you, look, I know you've got older children who've suffered of a bereavement, and how can we assist you? They could have at least visited just once and just said, okay, because it is a safeguarding issue. That's something that could have affected them at school.
Well, their school did actually say, we'll keep an eye out for them. But
that took you to report that, right?
I had to report the death, there's no one that said, by the way, this family has experienced this. No one got in touch with the school.
I think it definitely has a lot to do with the services being overwhelmed. And I guess as a community or within our communities, because I hate grouping us all that BAME stuff. I mean, it's cute, but we're all very different how we operate. I think within our communities, maybe we need to do more to just kind of support each other
and open up the conversations.
Yeah, because clearly we can't solely rely on the what do you call it, the medical and mental health services to kind of be offered to us.
And I also feel there's a lack of services for black and ethnic minority women because of this, I suppose, because we deal with everything and we just get on with it, and it's it's happened, we're strong, we carry on, we soldier on, we carry on, we're these superhuman people. But we're not superhuman people.
With thick skin.
Exactly. You cut me and you cut a white lady next to me, we're going to bleed the same. So, I feel like all the services that are offered to white women of a certain class. Because I feel...
Well, that's also what the study said that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast is... It was 90%, that 90% of Caucasian women that were accessing bereavement support all came from managerial and professional backgrounds. And it was the unskilled workers and unemployed that didn't access
Is it being offered through the hospitals, through the GPs, the pregnancy wards and all of that? Or is it being offered through their jobs? Like, are they... Because
we never got it through the NHS. So.
It'd be interesting to know where they're getting that support from, because if you are in managerial or, you're in a higher paid job, the likelihood is your employer probably has a bit more to...
Duty to refer and...
Yeah, and also they probably have more access to that kind of funding in order to... Because like certain jobs, they don't have like clinical supervision. They don't have somebody you can talk to. They don't have a hotline that you can call if you're feeling stressed at work. Like there's certain jobs this just doesn't exist. Whereas some jobs you do have that privilege of being able to kind of speak to someone. So I think it says a lot about class.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It says a lot about class as well as race.
Well,
and
that's
I think
a whole different episode.
But race and class are intertwined, because we know that your black and ethnic minority people are more likely to be working class than middle class. We know that. So it does say a lot about race, even though it's a class issue.
Yeah. Well, it's twofold from what we're saying. We're saying that we're not offered the services, but at the same time, we're not talking about it and we're not asking for the help.
Yeah.
Well, Winnie, you didn't want to address it, but when you went back to work, did you tell your manager?
Well, I did.
But did you tell any of your colleagues?
Well, I suppose I miscarried at 8 months, so I didn't miscarry. It was a stillbirth. I gave birth, but I I was then on maternity leave, and then I had to return to work. So everybody knew about it in some way, but for me to deal with it, because I was still on the thought process of, I can't believe what's happened, I'm still traumatized, and I don't want to talk about it. So to avoid talking about it and to avoid the questions, I literally asked for a transfer out of my office to a whole brand new area where nobody knew who I was. And then it meant I can start from the beginning. And because I started from the beginning, I didn't talk about it in my workspace.
You didn't address it at all.
None.
You literally moved.
I moved on.
Yeah.
And I didn't move on, I just
Blocked it out. Ran away.
literally, and I can say 100% I still run away. And I think this whole podcast has caused me
to relive it.
Not to relive it, but also to stop running. Like, just talk about it. But it's not that I'm happy to talk about it. It's very uncomfortable, but I know it's something that I need to do because it's part of the healing process. But we do need to be more open about these conversations. If I was to talk to my mum today about it, she would be like, but baby, you've got 2 kids now. You can have another one.
So, yeah.
So,
I must say, though, my sister was very supportive. And my sister lives in Grenada. So I'm talking about via FaceTime. I will call her. You know, I don't tend to cry in front of my family. It's so weird because I always cry in front of other people, but I never cry in front of my family. And I think it's because everyone has this idea of me being, you know, the tough one. Like, oh, she don't have no feelings. So I just kind of like live up to that. But my sister pointed out, she was like, I've noticed you always make a joke out of it. Like, everything has to be funny. Like, she said to me, it doesn't have to be funny. You know, you can actually feel sad and talk about it in that way if that's how you feel. And literally she would ask me all the time, you know, she shared her own experience. I don't think she's ever had a miscarriage, but she's had like her own experiences that she told me about that kind of helped me feel a little bit more comforted. So even though it is a thing in our communities where we don't talk about stuff, I think in like my generation, she's older than me, but still same generation, it's getting a bit better where people do feel that they can kind of, you know, offer you some support. Because my mum was just like, how are you coping with your, you know,
You wouldn't even say it.
that thing, you know, how's that going? Okay, all right.
But that's the thing, Shen, is that it's passed on through our parents.
Yeah.
but it's what they've received as well.
Yeah.
And it's the story of a woman. That's what used to annoy me. Every woman has been through it. You want to be the first and you want to be the last. Please, can I just feel it today? Can you all come together and embrace?
So can I ask you this, and I just want to know if a lot of our listeners feel this as well, if they've been through baby loss. When you go to family gatherings, are you being belly watched post-loss?
100%.
Is that what happened?
I don't think that's a Caribbean thing. I don't know. What do you think?
Did you even go out?
I'm trying to think. No one. You know, people want to ask you, "Oh, are you going to try again?" But nobody.
I hate that question.
Nobody wants to ask the question. But you know, it's you can see it ticking, tick in their mind. So I would just break the ice and say, you know, we would like to try for another one, and then you kind of see they're like, oh God, I'm glad I didn't have to ask that question.
I was like, why are you so burning to ask this question? Like,
Just don't.
to what end?
I experienced that. And then so I had to go through having friends who were pregnant at the same time as me as I was with Rose. And when they went ahead and had their children, and then I felt like I was looking for a window where I wasn't part of that club anymore. So when I lost my child, I was like, oh, I can't, you know, I'm here. I couldn't even go to the gym to go swimming because all the babies were there doing at that time. You know, when you're on this maternity leave, you don't have a baby. The only thing you want to do is try and keep. That's one thing I wanted to do, was try and keep physically fit. But it was hard. It was really, really hard. And that's when I looked on Instagram and typed in baby loss, and that's when I saw all this baby loss community, and I saw that there wasn't one Instagram influencer that was from a BAME background. They were all
actively
white.
talking about it.
Yeah, they were all white. They were all talking about it in these forums. They were all white. Everyone talking about their baby loss was all white. So although they helped me a lot because it was true what they were saying, because as women we all experience the same in terms of baby loss, one thing, but I don't know why, but women from a baby background was not taking part in that conversation, including myself.
I guess that's just, that boils down to the way we deal with things, and that the way that I suppose white people tend to be more open about stuff. They don't, they'll stop for a minute and discuss whatever, but whereas we are like, okay, it's happened, we need to get on with it now. Yeah, that happened yesterday. Okay, are we working tomorrow? Let's go. Let's see. Let's go. Go. And that's why probably there's such a high bloody load of black people sectioned every flipping minute, because we don't deal with stuff, which then cause that is traumatic, irrespective of what part of the pregnancy or what part of having a child you lose it. It's a trauma and it needs to be dealt with. We can't just be swept under the carpet. And I think platforms like this, being able to speak freely about it, and for other people to recognise that actually I'm not the only person going through this. I'm not the only person whose family are like, oh, don't worry, you can just try again, or oh, you was only 9 weeks pregnant, it doesn't matter, you can just try again, you've got age on your side. No, we don't want to hear that. And for other people, I think this is kind of, I guess, an eye-opener really, and to know that they're not alone. And I think that's what we could feel. I mean, I didn't ever feel that, because my mum wanted to talk about it all the time, and I didn't want to talk about it because that's how I deal with stuff. I didn't want to talk to her about it. She'd always be asking me questions. I don't want to talk to you about it, leave me alone, I'll talk when I'm ready. And eventually I was ready to talk about it, and now I can talk about it. It cuts me deep, deeper than I'll ever know. But I still think, for my mental health, for me to not go completely off the rails, considering I have a 7-year-old to look after also, I had to do it.
And now you're showing her how to grieve in a
healthy way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I do think though? Because with people from minority ethnic backgrounds, where almost all of us are parents, grandparents, or even we are immigrants. And I think that in itself is a traumatic process. Moving from one culture to another, moving from one country to another, and having to assimilate and fit in. And I think that's where a lot of the whole get on with it comes from, because it's like we've dealt with stuff, we've been dealing with stuff, do you know what I mean? And this whole you're not the first, you won't be the last. And I think we need to it's a process of unlearning. I think unlearning that kind of, you're strong, you can deal with it, your ancestors had to do this and all of that stuff. It's a process of unlearning that first, to be able to then reach out for support. Because yes, there may be the issue of us not being offered certain things due to race. I think that definitely is a factor. Whether you feel like it's not a personal factor, I think it is, because we've seen that it is. But I think also we need to feel empowered to be able to ask for that support as well. And I think a lot of that comes from unlearning unlearning the response to dealing with trauma as, I am strong. Because that's always my approach. Anytime I go through something that's traumatic or difficult, it's just like, right, I can get through this, let me look for a solution. Never to work through the emotions. Never, because I was raised by somebody who just got on with it, who was raised by someone who just got on with it, who was brought over, over to this country and got on with it. So
it's what we know. I think it's ingrained.
Talking about it is a strong thing. You're strong for talking about it. Because it's not easy.
It's not easy. No, it's not. And I also wonder, given the fact that all the charities and support groups out there are mainly for white middle class women, maybe that's also a turn off for people of black and ethnic minorities. Because if they're, you want to talk to someone that can relate to you, like, with all due respect, they may be doing the best job at, helping people through it. But when you look at me, do you recognise where I'm coming from in terms of, I have to be strong because that's all I know, because my mum told me that you must be strong, and her mum told her that you must be strong, and then her mum told her that when we came over, well, we had to deal with this, so you've just got to pick
That's why I
yourself
asked
up
that
and get
question.
on with it.
Do you think that these practitioners need to be educated on
I think
barriers
so.
that we
Definitely, but I still don't feel that that's enough. I still feel like
There needs to be
there needs to be representation.
Yeah. And I think that representation comes from us unlearning these things, because we don't tend to want to do that type of work, because it's like delving into territory that it's like a weakness almost. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you want to talk about your feelings?
Yeah. What are those? How dare you?
Yeah. I feel like
true.
I did want to ask though. You see the counselling that you're offering. Is it? Do you have a black counsellor?
No, she's white.
No. And do you think that has any effect on how you're able to receive that support?
Yeah.
I overlook it. I overlook it because I know what I need it for. I feel if she, but then there's two sides to this coin. I have a really good relationship with my psychologist. You know, she's helped me loads. If it was a black person who could recognise my struggle, would I have that same relationship with them? I wonder if it will be more colluded, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
More. So when I speak to my psychologist, very much, well, I do all the speaking, just say how I'm feeling and what's happened, yada, 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 yada. But what I do wonder at the same time is how I would be received if she were a black person. If it would be, I don't know. I know what I'm trying to say in my head.
Do you think that black people come with their own prejudices? Not prejudices, but like preconceptions about blackness. Yeah. And that it's almost like they're kind of preempting what you're...
Yeah.
Because you know what? I used to... Because I have a counsellor as well. It's not bereavement counselling. It's just general psychological support. And... before I had the one that I have now, I had a white lady, and I just felt, this is cold. I don't know, you don't get me. This is weird. This old white lady as well, and I just felt like we're miles apart. You don't know anything about what I'm going through. So I went to a few sessions and I stopped going. But years later, I then found this website called the Black and Asian Therapy Network or something like that. And you literally can scroll and just select someone. You look at their picture, you can see like, you know, their history, their qualifications, and you can literally pick and then call them. And that's how I chose my one now. And she's a black lady. She's slightly younger as well. So she's maybe not old enough to be my mum, but maybe she is, because, you know, black don't crack. But I felt instantly... And I was scared because I was like, I don't want a black woman, because then she's going to just be like...
Judging.
Yeah, she's going to judge me. She's going to come with like auntie judgment.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just like, no, because I don't want that. I'd rather someone who doesn't get it, so then I can tell them and then everything will go my way. But then I thought, is that really you opening up? Is that really you exploring those emotions? Or is that you kind of censoring it in a way that you think is palatable to whoever you're speaking to? Yeah. So I just went for the plunge. And this lady now, it's the same thing. I do all the talking. I think that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do all the talking, but that feels comforting to me. And whenever I've left from her, I'm almost always in tears, but whenever I've left, I always feel a little bit lighter. Yeah. So I think if you're in a good situation where you feel that you're getting what you need, then that is 100% fine. But if you feel like you're not, it's always good to try, I think. Because I was scared. I was just thinking, am I going to get my mum? Like,
But I suppose the issue when you're accessing support is, are you going to get somebody who is going to give you the theoretical version, the theoretical solution in textbook. Theory? Yeah, the textbook. You know, the attachment theory book suggests that this is what happens, and then you progress here, and then you cognitive.
And that's personality. But do you know what? I don't think their role is to give you a solution anyway.
No, there isn't. But they will. Their solution comes from the type of leading questions that they give you.
Yeah.
But sometimes, for it to be an active conversation where you feel like there is a dialogue that's going to move you from place A to place B, there has to be a space where you feel like you can relate to someone. So even though you're doing most of the talking, her questions suggest to you that there's a point that you relate.
Yeah.
But also the active examples that you give and the active responses that she gives you know, you end up marrying somewhere, so you do feel like, yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel textbook. So they probably read the same book, but she has a lived experience that she can relate to you with, and she can articulate that, or throw it in somewhere where you know that this person understands who I am, or at least isn't talking from a space of I don't know, but I think it sounds right.
Yeah, I read this in my diversity training.
Yeah.
I think with her as well, it's like it feels like, I think for me it might be psychological as well, because she's black and I can see that she's black. It automatically feels better. Yeah. Even if she ain't even said anything.
Yeah.
I feel like, because you know, I know you mentioned that recently on your Instagram, where you were saying that often when you walk into certain spaces, you're looking to see who looks like you, and then you go and you sit next to that person and you feel a little bit better.
Why do we feel that way?
I think it's that, because it's like when I walked into the room and I saw a black lady, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, she looks like her picture, she looks kind,
because she looks familiar.
She looks familiar.
But it's when we're most vulnerable. We're not talking about every single aspect of our life. As a BAME woman, when we're vulnerable, we do look for someone that's
similar to us.
Who's similar. Definitely.
And I think that's where it's coming from. The ladies, we could talk about this for, ages, but we do need to wrap it up, unfortunately. But we do want to say thank you very much for everyone's experience. I know it was really, really hard bringing up all that trauma. And what we want to say to our listeners is that baby loss in the black and minority ethnic community should not be hidden, but instead we should try to normalize it. So if you have experienced baby loss, and whether you're black, white, Asian, or any type of background, you should please feel that you're not alone. There are organizations and charities out there. Shiv is saying herself that she's accessed bereavement support through doctors and hospitals. There is Tommy's charity, which I wanted to talk about briefly, is that it offers a mum's baby tour. Well, this is brand new. It's probably why none of us heard about it. And they're not out there in the hospitals. You have to go searching for it. But if you went onto the Tommy's charity website, there is a mum's baby tour, and they actually think about the barriers for BAME women, what they face, and how difficult it is to access mental health services after baby loss, postpartum. And they strongly recommend using it, because you don't need to. It's a bit like your website that you went to, Shend, and you don't need to go face to face with someone or pick up the phone. It's a tool on their website that you can, put your feelings in yourself, and then they will come up with something that you should actually get involved with, someone near your area, maybe an access or service or something. So that is something, if you're having any issues in any sort of way you're feeling after baby loss, you may be feeling okay right now listening to this podcast, but trauma and grief can hit you at any point. So talk about it. Please talk about it. There's also other charities that you can look at and have access to online or through your doctors, and I'll put that all on the show notes of at the bottom of this podcast, whether you were listening to on iTunes or Spotify. And please, if you've enjoyed listening to our podcast, please subscribe to us, Becoming Us Podcast. You can contact us on becominguspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you think of the podcast. Tell us if you'd like to get involved in the next episode. Tell us your experiences. You can also follow us on Instagram at Becoming Us Podcast, or on Twitter at Becoming Us PDCST. Because we couldn't get the podcast, sorry. Our next episode is on the subject of pregnancy after loss. If you have any questions you'd like us to address in relation to black and minority ethnic women, or women in general who are experiencing pregnancy after loss, then please let us know. Please get in contact with us at becominguspodcast@gmail.com. Again, all these details will be on the show notes when you click on this podcast. Please do subscribe to us. And we look forward to the next one, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I just add,
Yes.
if there's anybody that is listening that does know of charities that support black and ethnic minority women going through trauma of this kind, please let us know so that we can put it out there and reach out, and because we want everyone to feel that they have a safe space to express how they feel, irrespective of
Definitely, that's a good
their
point.
ethnicity.
Thank you so much, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm